guys, today I'll be going over the LeetCode problem 2-sum. It's a really common, simple problem that a lot of companies ask. So here, we'll first go to the problem and read it. All right, so given an array of integers, return indices, so that's the index of the two numbers such that they add up to a specific target. Okay, you may assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and you may not use the same element twice. Okay, so here's an example that they give us. So given nums is equal to 2, 7, 11, 15, that's the list called nums. They give you that the target is 9. Then what would you return? We can see here that 2 and 7 add up to 9. So you would return the index of 2 and 7, and the index of 2 and 7 is 0 and 1, because the indexes, as you know, go 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So you would return 0 and 1, and you put that in a list and return it. So for today and for all my tutorials, I will be coding in Python, and here it is on LeetCode. But I'm actually going to put this away and code on my own compiler just so I could show you guys some more examples if needed to clarify sort of how I'm doing everything. So first here, I'm going to copy over this method that we're going to have to write. I'm going to get rid of self because we're not going to have to use that. And I'll write a main method really quick right here. If name equals... So this is just how to write a main method in Python. So we could just test the main method right now. We'll make it do something if you run it. Right, so we'll say print high. So you can see it prints out high, right? All right, so that works. Now we're gonna go back here and we're gonna write this method. So I have the problem also listed over here if you need to look over that for reference. Okay, so now we're gonna first start out by explaining sort of the process that we're going to do it by. Right, so essentially what happens is we're going to use a list, because the parameter is going to be a list. And we'll just use the example they gave us. So our list is going to have 2, 7, 11, 15. And the target is going to be 9. All right, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to first iterate through elements in list. And then for each element that we iterate through, so essentially we're going to get 2, 7, 11, 15, right? So we're iterating through this list, right? And then for each element, we want to find if it contains another element that can add up to the target. So how we're going to do that is we're going to check for whether target minus the element is in the list. Then you could return the index. Right, and our third step would be return index of two elements that add up to target. All right, then what we do is our target is 9, you see, right? So we're going to go at index 0, so you can see. So I'll write the indexes over here. So I'll write the indexes like that. So indexes would be 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Because essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to return, there we go. Okay, given 9, we want to be able to return 0 and 1, which are the indexes of 2 and 7, which add up to 9, right? So at index 0, so we'll just do at index 0, we'll do 9 minus 2. Okay, so basically at each index, what we're going to do is we will subtract the element from the target in order to find the other element and see if it's in the list. So over here, it's going to be a 7. -2, and then -6. One thing that you note, though, what happens over here at index 0, when you do 9 minus 2 equals 7, then you go and check if 7 is in the list. And indeed it is. So you wouldn't actually get to these steps. So actually we would stop right here. So we'd get this, and then we'd stop over here. So once you find that 7, you find out what index that it's at, and then you would return, so over here we know you would return 0, 1, right? Because we know it's at index 0, and then we check for where 7 is, and then we turn it, it's at 1, right? All right, so that's the algorithm for it. It's pretty simple. So right now, we'll go through it. Remember that whenever you are in an interview, always first write out your thought process beforehand, and generally the interviewer will either confirm or deny it, ask you about additional things that you might need to take into notice. So it's always really good to write out what your thought process is before you start coding. All right, so now let's start coding. So here, we'll bring this down a little. Okay, so essentially what I want to first do is I want to iterate through the list, right? So how can I do this? I'll show you two different approaches, and depending how you want to approach this problem, you can use either but I will show you the one that I will be using, which will make the problem a lot easier. What we want is the indexes. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to do for x, so that's the variable we're iterating with, in range from 0 to length of list. So that goes from 0 to the length of the list, right? And then we're going to use x. Okay. Now, over here in the console, I'm going to tell you the difference. One way to iterate through your list, so let's say we have the same list as we have before, 2, 7, 11, 15, right? And let's say we're iterating through for x in list, and now let's print out x so you can see how that works. This would iterate straight through the values of x, so that would be 2, 7, 11, 15. That works too, but that's not what we want at the moment since we have to return the indices. So what I would do is here, so I iterate from range starting from 0, which would be the first index, right? Everything starts at to length of list, and then I print x. Therefore, we have assigned x to 0, 1, 2, 3. So therefore, this is the way that we're going, and that's the way that I have. All right. So now what we're going to do is we want the value at x, since right now x contains the index, but we want the values. The value of x we're going to set as num1, so list x, that will give us the value. And then what we're doing is we want to be able to find what is the value that we want to look for in the list, right? So we're going to do, right, like we do over here, 9 minus 2 equals 7. We're going to try to forget that 7 and then search for in the list. So our num2 would be equal to target minus num1. So if we're iterating through the list, we're iterating through this one, we're iterating through 0, 1, 2, 3, right? And then at this step, what we do is we get, let's say x is 0, and that the index of x is equal to 0. Then we get num1 is equal to 2, right? Because 2 is at 0. And at this step, what we're doing is we're just doing the target, which is 9 minus 2, which is equal to 7. So we get 7. Now what we do is we want to search for 7 in the list. So in Python, there's a nice little thing called .index that you can use if you have list.index, right? So we're going to come here to the console and explain that. So let's say you have the same list as before. There's my list, right? If I want to find the index of a value, I can just do list.index, let's say 2, that would turn 0 because that's at 0. Let's say I do 15, right? If I do 15, 0, 1, 2, 3, so it would return 3. There we go. So if, though, I try to get something that's not in the list, so let's say I do 13, that's not in the list, it's going to give me a value error. So we're going to account for that. Essentially, what we want to do is we're going to have a try-catch method. So we'll do try. So how we're going to do that is we are going to try to see if num2 is in the list as well by trying to find it. If it's not found, it would return a value error, so we accept a value error. So this essentially doesn't throw an error in your code, and then you can just do nothing. Okay, that's just a command. All right, so we know here how we have x over here, that's the first number, and y is going to be the index of the second number. So we're going to try y is equal to list.index, and then we want index of num2. But one thing that you notice that's going to be wrong with this code, actually here, I will run it and then we'll see it. So we're going to try y equals list.index of num2. And then if this is possible and this worked, then we will return xy together in a list. Right, so those would be the two numbers. So if we found 7, so yes, we found 7 at index 1, this would return 0, 1. All right, so let's just try running this code. Let's put in list is equal to 2, 7, 11, 15. Okay, and then we'll have the, okay, so the list will be 2, 7, 11, 15. We'll have the target equals 9. Let's call that method. So we're gonna print out the result that's returned from it. So we'll hand it over the list and the target. So as expected, it should be printing out 0, 1. All right, so we run the program, and here on console you can see the answer is 0, 1, so that's perfect. But what if we say that the list is 3, 7, 4, 2, I just changed it slightly, 4, 2, and let's say the target is 6. What would it return, right? Well, we see that 4 plus 2 adds up to 6. So it should return 0, 1, 2, 3, index 2 and 3. What should be printed is 2 and 3. So let's run it and see. All right, you see here that it returns 0 and 0. So why is that? So we look over here. It's because it counted 3 twice, since in our code we just check if the entire list contains the number that we're trying to find after you do target minus the element. But that's actually not correct, because as you can see in the LeetCode problem, it said you may not use the same element twice. And in here we would use the same element twice. So that does not pass some of the test cases on LeetCode. So actually what we have to do is we have to sort of amend for that. How we're going to do that is we are actually going to start from x plus 1. This just means that the list is going to be from x plus 1 onwards. So for example, if I have the list like we had before, and I want to get rid of the first element, which would be 0, at 0 right now, I'd be list x plus 1. And you see the list has only 742. Or let's just say we go back to the list. It's the same thing as doing 1. So that just cuts off the first element of the list, right? So we'll do x plus 1. So wherever x is plus 1, that cuts off everything up to x, dot index num2. But here we run into another problem, because now it would only return the index of the list from list x plus 1. So let's say we have this list and we want the index of 7, and it should be 1, right? But if we do this, what we did before, right? Dot index of 7, that returns 0, because it's returning the index from a list that looks like this, right? So obviously over here it's 0. So you actually have to add back what you cut off. So we have to add back plus x plus 1. All right, there we go. All right, that's awesome. And now when we do it, it should return the correct results. So let's see. Let's get rid of these comments. All right, perfect. So now it returns 2 and 3, right? After we run it, and that's the correct answer. Now, this program is perfect now. I do like to just condense my code usually. The reason why I had to spread out is just so you guys can understand. And so I just changed the num2 into target minus lix, which is target minus num1. Okay, and that works. And as you can see, it's actually very simple code. 7 lines of code, really easy. Honestly, without trying to set even like 2 lines of code, really. All right, so now that we're done with this, we can go back to LeetCode and copy that in. And now I'm going to run it. Awesome, so I ran it on LeetCode. It runs through all the test cases. They gave us 29 test cases. And we see that the runtime is faster than 36% of submissions, and that the memory usage is less than 91%. So less than 91%, that's really great memory usage. This runtime is okay, but there might be a faster way to do it too. So I'll be going over another way to do it with enumerate and dictionaries in another YouTube video. But overall, that's one way to do twosome. That's a very, very simple way to do twosome. Very few lines of code. Let me know if you have any questions in the bottom or any clarifications you'd like to know about Python methods, etc. I'll see you next time.